is not the greatest thing either. The medicine would not work, or would work to a mediocre level. And Chinese medicine, at least from the way I perceive it, the way I studied it with my teacher, is not to be mediocre. It could be super potent. But if you use potent medicine with potent herbs, then you really need to know what you're doing, otherwise there's a problem. You can't dilly-dally, and then something wrong is going on. You can't allow something wrong to go on. So Zheng Qingyuan, the founder of this school, or people call him the fire god, was no god at all. He just studied the first half of his life, the Chinese classics, not just Chinese medicine, the Confucian classics, with his teacher, Liu Zhitang. And after that, he went into the medicine field already very connected to the root that the Chinese classics are looking for throughout the ages. And today we kind of not really sure about what the root is anymore. So yesterday in the class that I had with my course, with the Hunyuan certification course, I talked to them about it. You know, we say in Chinese medicine that we treat the root and not the symptoms, right? Don't we learn that in school? But Western medicine, doesn't it treat the root also? I mean, if you go to CVS and you buy some Tylenol for headaches, you say, okay, they treat the headache. But let's say you treat on some more serious problem. Let's say like pain in the chest, and there's problem with the heart, and they go inside the heart and they unplug it, or do whatever surgery, bypass. Don't they treat the root? Pain in the chest is caused by the heart not working. They go inside with the most advanced and vigorous medicine to cure the problem. So when we say, for example, we have headaches and this comes because of liver yang rising or liver qing stagnation or whatever we want to call it, we said, okay, we treat the liver. That's really the root. But the root that, Zheng Qingyuan and Zhang Zhongjing and the Shanghan Lun and the Neijing, the Ling Shu, they talk about is different than that. It's not because we say the headaches come from the liver qi stagnation that this is the root. This is not the root. The root is, why is the liver qi stagnating? Why is the kidney yang deficient? That's the root. Not that the kidney yang is deficient is the root. Otherwise, we're exactly like Western medicine. And that's the difference. So if you can hold on to the root and understand it, and this is very, very difficult to understand, but if you can hold on to this root, the application of medicine, the herbs and acupuncture, then go to this root, to the real root of the problem. And then you can have stories like I'm telling you, like this patient with hot flashes, that it is agreed by all that she needs medicine for a long, long time. She take herbs for 2 days and done. The fingers are going to fall 3 days and done, and they're back. I mean, the surgeon still had to put nails in this, but they didn't amputate them anymore. Come back to life. This is the root. How to bring things back to life is quite difficult to understand. That's why Zheng Qingyuan studied the Yi Jing, the classics, the Neijing, the Confucius classics, etc., to be able to get close to this root. Try to understand, where is it coming from? Why is life the way it is, and how do we remedy it? So yesterday in my class, I talked about something I can touch briefly on today. The sages said, the heaven changes are eternal. The human life is limited. That's why the man always follows the heaven. The more we become like heaven, or our transformation, our changes are like heaven, the longer life we have. This is the real root of all the problems, and it's easy for me to say, but it's really very difficult to understand the full meaning of it, and then how do we bring it into the practice? How do we apply it in clinic? So there's a way here to walk, and grinding the classics obviously is one of it. In modern medicine, the way to prove things is by RCI, right? RCTs, randomized controlled studies. Is that what it's called? RTCs, what is it called? Trials, right, randomized trials. And I hear it on the radio all the time. 500,000 vitamin D units is good for, I don't know, whatever problems, because this study showed it. Or that drug is good for this because we did a study for 2 years and it showed the reduced risk of heart disease. And this, for us, it's very easy to understand, right? They say this study, whatever we did in the study proved it. Now we understand it. But Chinese medicine works on what we call inner vision, meaning through contemplation that practitioners like Zhang Zhongjing and Zheng Qing'an over the ages understood the meaning, the root of things. Now you can't do trials to prove that. You have to have a certain level of contemplations to be able to grasp it. And this is where Chinese medicine way of study Chinese medicine is different than Western medicine. So the traditional way of Chinese medicine to study is, first is people grinding the classics over and over again in order to read this kind of contemplation. And then you need to have a teacher to be able to transmit this knowledge. But the condition, the precondition that must exist during studying Chinese medicine is what we call humility. The student can't say, I know as much as the teacher. And that's what happens today in classes in acupuncture schools all the time. If there are, and there aren't, but if they were, theories that are very, very difficult to grasp, the student immediately will say, I don't get it, hence I don't agree with it. But that's not how Chinese medicine works. Chinese medicine means, I don't get it, let me contemplate. With the time I'll get it. Meaning there is a trust with a teacher. Otherwise I shouldn't study with him. Go find another teacher, which I believe to be competent. But this is the traditional Chinese medicine way of cultivating Chinese medicine skill, which is different than the way we study today. And again, the introduction that I said at the beginning is we have to study today in school the way we do if we want to get our license. But today I'm talking about Chinese medicine, which might be a little different. This kind of cultivation allows breeding of this kind of skill that at the end can be translated into the clinic to such remarkable results. To be able to apply, for example, if needed, foods at 200 or 150 grams a day without danger. Versus other people say, hey, but today we know that we can only use 3 grams. I mean, foods again is a completely different subject, but it's not about the foods. But just for example, it is a potent herb. But the way it is mutilated today, etc., it's not a potent, it's just really bad herb. But if it is the good herb, it is still very, very potent. And the Fire Sage School, what they pride themselves on is that they use potent medicine, not that they use reckless medicine. And this is very, very different, meaning the people who practice this kind of medicine are very proud of themselves for the results they see in their clinic, which are very different than the common results we see in the clinic. And that's why people at that time called this guy and his followers today, Lu Chonghan, his father, his grandfather, and other people, they call them fire gods, meaning we don't understand what they're doing, but it works like God. But for us, what I want to introduce today is really, there is no God there. Zhang Zhongjing was no God. Zheng Qing'an was no God. No one is God. We all make up this theory, or we understand something on a different level, that's all. And this comes from inner vision and cultivation. So, I want to go into something more technical, because right now we're just talking about the big picture, and in the end we just don't know what the hell am I talking about. It's just like the big picture. But we want to talk just a little bit more practical, and to try to understand, and I have very, very short time to try to deliver any punchline here, but to try to understand why the Fire Sage School use a lot of hot herbs. It's not just Fuzi, but Fuzi and Rougui and Ganjian and Paojian and all kind of stuff like this. Zheng Qing'an has 3 books. One of them is called Yili Jianquan, True Transmission of Chinese Medicine Principles. He was like at the end of the 1800s. And he writes at the introduction, at the beginning of the introduction of his book, he said, Yi Xue Yi Tu Hu Nan Yi Yung Yao. He said the art of medicine is not difficult with the use of herbs, of medicine.